thank you for watching. I want to talk to you specifically about what to do when nothing is changing. You've been waiting, you've been wondering, you've been getting frustrated, and you're going, why isn't anything changing? I heard someone once describe the game of football as 60,000 people who desperately need exercise, watching 22 men who desperately need rest. They said, but the game of football is highly indicative of life itself. Most people watch from the sidelines. Very few people get off the bleachers and get in the game. Well, I do believe you're in the game, or you wouldn't be watching a podcast about success, about how to make changes when nothing's changing. Well, I do believe also it's going to take effort on your part. Mary Kay, she once described that there are 3 types of people in the world. She said there's those who make things happen, there's those who watch things happen, and then there's those who wonder, what happened? Well, I want you to be one of the ones who make things happen. But like I said, it's going to take effort on your part. And what I mean by this is taking 100% responsibility for your life, for where you are, for what you've achieved, for what's taken place, 100% responsibility. And I want you to realize that your decisions affect your destiny. I want you to start making destiny decisions that you're going to be pleased with. There's a story in John chapter 5. And it was when Jesus saw a sick man laying at the pool of Bethesda. That's where all the sick people would lay. In fact, let me read this to you. It says, at the pool of Bethesda, here a great number of disabled people used to lie. The blind, the lame, the paralyzed. One who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. Then it says, when Jesus saw him lying there and learned he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, do you want to get well? Sir, the invalid replied, I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I'm trying to get in, someone else always goes ahead of me. Then Jesus said to him, in his heart of compassion, he said to the invalid, get up, pick up your bed, and walk. The next verse says, at once the man was cured, he picked up his mat and walked. Now I want you to think about this. For 38 years, he's just been sitting there waiting. Waiting on what? Waiting on somebody to come along, pick him up, and put him in the water. I think it's interesting that Jesus had to ask a sick man who's visibly very sick. Jesus had to walk up to him and ask him, do you want to get well? Now, why would Jesus ask a sick man, do you want to get well? Why? Because he had been laying there for 38 years. Because nothing had changed in 38 years. Now, I want you to think about that in your own life, in your personal life. What could Jesus himself be asking you today? If he showed up in your kitchen today and said, are you sure you want to get out of debt? Are you sure you want to lose weight? Are you sure you want to get married? Are you sure you want to start your own company? Are you sure you really want to save money? Are you sure you want to preach the gospel? Are you sure you want to really write a book? Why would Jesus ask you that? Because perhaps nothing has changed in 5 years, 10 years, 12 years, 17 years, 38 years. Jesus could be asking you the same thing he asked this man. Are you really sure you want what you say you want? Why? Because nothing's changed. Now, I know that I'm not trying to be hard on you. I'm just trying to teach you the way Jesus taught me. That I had to be the one to finally say, I'm going to pick myself up and I'm going to start taking steps towards my destiny. Well, the same applies with you. Whatever God has put in your heart, your dreams, your goals, that passion you have on the inside, Jesus is telling you today, get up. Don't wait for other people to come along and pick you up. You have to get up. This is something that nobody else can do for you. You have to make yourself get up and start taking steps. I love what Les Brown said. He said, if you fall down, try to land on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up. It's not too late for you to get up. It's not too late for you to brush yourself off, pull your shoulders back, and start taking steps towards your destiny. Now, like I said, what does this mean? No one can do this for you. You may have heard on a previous podcast, I've shared how years ago I heard John Bevere make this statement, and it drives me to this day. He said, he said, when you stand before God on Judgment Day, he said, Judgment Day is going to come when you stand before God and you're going to give an account for your life. He said, but when that day comes, you're not going to be held accountable for what you did on earth. And I thought we were. He said, no, you're going to be held accountable for what you were called to do on earth. So what you did and what you were called to do could be two totally different things. God may say, I called you to sing. Why didn't you sing? And you say, well, I just didn't think my voice was that great. Or I called you to start a business. Why didn't you start the business? And you say, well, the bank turned me down and I couldn't get a loan. Why didn't you go to another bank? God may say, I called you to preach. Why didn't you preach? Well, nobody was inviting me. Well, why didn't you go preach to your neighbors? Why didn't you preach on the corner? Do something to start taking steps. So when you think about that, God's going to hold you accountable for that dream he's put in your heart. That makes me think that Jesus, just like he said to the sick man, he said, get up, pick up your bed, and walk. Jesus could be saying to you today, get up, pick up that music, and sing. Get up, pick up your Bible, and preach. Get up, pick up your bottom, and get to the gym. He might be saying, get up, pick up your wallet, and give. You can give your way out of debt. What could Jesus be saying to you today? I want you to take this to heart and think about these destiny decisions that God's speaking to you right now. You want to know why nothing's changing? Because God's saying it's time for you to pick yourself up and start taking steps. Listen to this story real quick. I read this about a woman, 32-year-old woman who was involved in an automobile accident, and it says as a result of hitting her head, she experienced total amnesia. At the time of the accident, she was married with 2 children. She was extremely shy. She had a stuttering problem, and she was very nervous around other people. She had a poor self-image, very low self-esteem. Plus, she didn't work, and she had very few friends. Well, because of her total amnesia, when she woke up in the hospital, she didn't remember a single thing about her past life. She didn't remember her parents, her husband, her children. Her mind was totally blank. So, this was so unusual that neurosurgeons and specialists began to talk to her and examine her. She was such a special case that she became very well known. When she recovered physically, she was interviewed on radio, on TV. She began, people are studying her condition. She began writing articles and a book describing her experience. Well, she began traveling, giving lectures to medical and professional groups. Ultimately, she became a recognized authority on amnesia. With no memory of her previous experiences, her childhood, her upbringing, nothing. She became the center of attention. She began being treated as someone very important. She, as a result, developed an entirely new personality. She became positive, self-confident, outgoing. She became extremely friendly, developed an excellent sense of humor, and a whole new network of friends. Well, as a result of all that, she basically started over in life, an entirely new person. And I want you to realize that you can start over. It is not too late for you to start over today to say, you know what? I want to have a good ending. I want my story to be different than it is right now. God can give you a supernatural amnesia where you no longer remember that old person who maybe was a procrastinator, lazy, undisciplined. No, start today making destiny decisions as if Jesus said to you today, get up, pick up your bed, and start walking towards your destiny. So, I hope you were encouraged by this podcast. If you're enjoying it, please subscribe to this channel, tell your friends, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook so I can keep you motivated to go after your dreams. And ladies, I want to tell you real quick, we have our icing event coming up. It's an annual event in October, Fort Worth, Texas, absolutely free, but you must register at terri.com/icing so I can save you a seat and a cupcake. And I'm going to teach you how to make a vision board so you can start walking towards your destiny. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.